Tonight on News 5 Live, Guatemalans are settling along this side of the border once again. Police City Mayor Bernard Wagner goes one-on-one with News 5 on recent developments at City Hall. The Avalos family in Benque loses everything after their house is destroyed by fire. A student from Corozal Junior College takes this year's Belize Scholarship, having topped the CAPE exams. And the historic Swing Bridge in the heart of the city is in a state of disrepair, and remedial works are taking longer than expected. Details of these stories and more coming up in tonight's newscast.
At least help me with that then.
Good evening. Welcome to News 5 Live for Tuesday, November 12th. I am Marlene Cuellar. Encroachments by Guatemalans are well known within the Chiquibu. But now, emboldened Guatemalan nationals are setting up permanent structures closer to the western border and well within Belizean territory. For years, Belizean businessman Jorge Espat has been battling with Guatemalans settling in his land. Espat says that as of late, the situation has not only persisted, it has gotten worse with the beckoning of the mayor from Melchor the Mencas. The mayor has been sending his supporters to clear land and settle on Espat's property. News 5's Hipólito Novello reports.
This is Belizean businessman Jorge Espat, and he owns more than 100 acres of land along this side of the western border in Benque Viejo del Carmen in an area known as Barrio El Huda. This is the mayor of neighboring Melchor de Mencos in Guatemala, Amado Yanes. He has recently won an election, and our understanding is that he has promised residents property in Barrio El Huda. Video shows Guatemalans clearing the land, building roads, and up to recently constructing structures on Belizean territory.
Every time we have or they have municipality elections, it has been a reoccurring issue, whereas to gain room in the general elections for the municipality, the parties involved direct the people to the Belizean territory, which is my farm or my area, borderline, to get parcels and to make settlements.
The undocumented Guatemalans are essentially building on Espat's land on Belizean territory at the direction of their municipal leader. It is an issue that has been discussed time and time again during the meeting of the National Security Council.
Every time we have a National Security Council meeting, there is a report. And that Barrio El Huda is a continuing problem. Every time, remember how the protocol is, we receive reports, the BDF goes, confirms, makes the, in fact, complaint to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Foreign Affairs passes it to the OAS, they go and they verify. And once they say yes, the settlement is in Belize, then we are entitled to destroy it. You do it, a few months later they come back.
But this time, Espat says it is worse. Concrete structures are being built.
This has been the worst. It's like how I mentioned, it has been a reoccurring issue. I recall the last incident we had managed to let them leave the area. They were forced to leave the area. There were no structure at the time. There was just fence properties with some cornfields and clearing of area, which was very recent at the time. Now it has reached to the scenario that there is a teacher that made very expensive investment, concrete building, which of course that is something that cannot be removed. It has to be destroyed eventually. Another person built a wooden structure, and that was just recently.
The teacher's name is Paola Reyes, who told the Guatemalan press that she has been occupying the piece of land for 4 years after buying it from her sister, who occupied the land for 4 years as well. Reyes, who took out the loan to buy the land, coughed up about 32,000 quetzales and began construction in February. Reyes says that land was surveyed and was told that the land was in Guatemala.
Unfortunately for the teacher, I had contacted the whole vicinity in the area. I had advised them to stop or to cease investment, and requested for them or to them if they had any documents whatsoever, and they said no, they don't have. Some of them, or the teacher said she had. I told her to produce documents, and of course it's a back and forth. They were insisting on my end to produce documents to them, which indeed, of course, I'm on the Belizean side. It is my property.
Recently, while on another visit to his land, Espat was confronted by Guatemalan authorities who had crossed over to this side of the border and asked him to surrender his firearm.
I was in my area, of course, with my firearm, and I had spoken to some of the people in the area, and the police came by and mentioned to me that they wanted me to surrender documents.
Guatemalan authorities?
That's right, and I told them in no way I need to respond to them. I mean, I am within my rights and in my territory. I mean, this is my property.
And to prove that the property is on Belizean side, the Organization of American States got involved, verifying the location of the land.
The confirmation came about through the OAS, and Guatemala, as I understand, that had requested verification through the Mexican source. And yes, indeed, the verification from the OAS came out intact.
Why not erect a fence around it?
There is a lot of, since it is the borderline, there's a lot of contraband. People there, it used to have a fence, but at the end of the day, why make an investment when an investment is not worth the while? Because the people come and take away whatever fence you put, and of course, it's a crime, but I cannot go and charge them across the border, right? So it's very delicate, it's a very delicate issue. There were markers, there were posts, there were fence. And I mean, they thief the material for the fence. I mean, they use it for their purpose. And so to speak, that they even come in my territory to take out material to build their house, to do their foundation, right? And I mean, it's very sad.
Reporting for News 5, Hipólito Novello.
Espat wrote to the CEO and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Pat Andrews, on the issue of Guatemalan squatting on his land. Espat tells Andrews that he has waited 4 months for this issue to be resolved and does not see the end of it. While the land is privately owned, Espat recognized the implications that the issue might have internationally. Espat says that he has been patiently allowing it to be resolved in a diplomatic way to avoid a confrontation or cause tension between both countries. He says that if he didn't hear from the ministry, then he will seek legal advice. On November 11th, the ministry wrote to Espat. The 3-sentence response says the ministry is, quote, actively engaged in discussions with Guatemalan authorities and with officials of the OAS on the matter. We certainly have no objection to your seeking legal advice on it, unquote. In a press statement, the Ministry of National Security says that it has been actively taking steps to address the issue regarding the illegal settlements and encroachments by Guatemalans. According to the release, since becoming aware of this situation, high-level officials within the Ministry of National Security, the Belize Defense Force, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs have made multiple visits to the area. A joint operation by the BDF and the GAF was conducted to officially inform the settlers that they are illegally inhabiting Belizean territory and to provide a timeline for the voluntary removal of their belongings. The ministry says that all illegal construction has ceased since that joint operation conducted in October 2019. Espat, however, says otherwise.
I had sent them a very good letter indicating to them that I had all intentions and in good faith, an amicable way to try to, and of course, in the interest of our country and a delicate situation, trying to have it as easy as possible and giving them time after time and setting a deadline. And now with this deadline of end of October not being met with government, now I decided now to write them a letter that since there is no positive response and sort of a non-indication of perhaps interest, I'm seeking legal advice. And a very brief letter of 2 sentences. I mean, coming from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or a minister, I mean, 2 sentences, right?
You feel like they're not giving it the priority it deserves?
No priority, perhaps no interest. The letter just stated that they are working on it and that I can seek legal advice, and as easy as that. I mean, no interest, no indication. Unfortunately, it's a very sad story, given the fact that, yes, it is a private property, but I am on the belief that it is a national issue. Even though it's a private property, first of all, there is squatting. Second of all, I believe that with a report being given by me to the police station, the act of immigration law supposed to be automatically kicked in by, first of all, with the report, looking at the area. Secondly, if they don't have documents, I mean, they are illegal in our country. Leaving the squatting portion aside, I believe that that is something that at least the government should have done. I had informed, we have been dialoguing with government over the past 4 or 5 months, and at the end of the day, it's very futile. So now, with that, I am going and I'm seeking legal advices.
On Monday, the Belize City Council filed an application to appeal a decision handed down by Justice Courtney Abel on October 4th in favor of former City Administrator Candice Miller. The judgment, in which Miller was awarded over $400,000 in compensation, will be challenged in the appellate jurisdiction. However, recent developments at City Hall have preceded that application. Firstly, the formal request to have the matter reconsidered at a subsequent hearing was filed within the 21-day period following the perfection of the Supreme Court decision. But Miller wasted no time moving in on the council's assets in lieu of collecting on that award. That's because prior to filing the appeal, a demand was reportedly made through Miller's attorney for City Hall to make out a payment of $50,000 to her. According to Mayor Bernard Wagner, a dialogue between attorneys for both parties resulted in an agreement that a letter of undertaking would have been prepared ahead of an initial dispersal next week. But no sooner than that agreement was met came another request for a significantly larger sum of money. Earlier today, we sat down with Mayor Wagner, who discussed the pending appeal, as well as the crowfooting of Citco's assets on the same day.
Even though we recognize that we respect the ruling of the courts, you always want to respect the ruling of the courts, our attorneys feel that we have a very strong case for appeal, and as such, they have filed that appeal. They filed that appeal yesterday. We were made to understand, again, I'm no attorney, but we were made to understand that these matters normally give you 21 days after the perfection of the judgment of the judge. And so we were a bit taken aback yesterday morning, when we were told that marshals from the Supreme Court were in our building and wanted to begin the process of executing a writ of the judgment.
You guys have acted promptly to file for paperwork to bring about a stay of execution. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, that stay of execution again is being filed as we speak. Actually, it's being filed as we speak. Again, those are matters that the attorney deal with. We know the urgency of it, and we don't want to be tardy in any matters that has to do with the assets of the council, the assets of the residents of the city, and so they are filing that today.
Upon exiting the Supreme Court victorious on the evening of October 4th, Attorney Magali Perdomo, who represents Miller in the wrongful termination suit, reiterated the fact that a contract in this case, a formal agreement between the previous City Council and Miller, is legally valid. So if the Court of Appeal upholds the decision handed down by Justice Abel that Miller's dismissal was in fact a breach of contract, what's the mayor's next move?
You guys have filed an application to appeal the outcome of this matter at the Supreme Court level. If the judgment of Justice Courtney Abel is affirmed at the Court of Appeal, do you then seek as a council to pay off that debt, or do you then try to go beyond that? It's an obvious question because there's also the CCJ as the final jurisdiction.
Yes. Again, Isani, I would have to leave that question to our attorneys, but I say that our attorneys feel strongly about our chances in the appeal, and we just have to take it from there.
The release that was issued yesterday, it seemed to have targeted Ms. Miller. Came off a bit personal, if that were the case. This is business. This is a matter that went before the court. The court adjudicated in favor of Ms. Miller, and she has taken a sort of step that I would want to say kind of preempted your move. You were filing the appeal yesterday, but yesterday she was already moving to have assets crow-footed.
Yeah.
Why did the letter have that, or the release, should I say, have a particular tone to it?
I don't think the press release, I read that press release, it never had that tone to it. I just think it want to establish that we felt at the council that the goalpost was being moved, man, and in the first instance you have 21 days to execute your writ, but then, not by coincidence, last week when we disclosed that we were appealing, days after you move to execute your judgment, and then even further to that, you move to really begin to crowfoot the assets of the council, and these assets are what they give the council the ability to carry out a function as a council, providing services to the city. And at the end of the day, Isani, this no hurt Mayor Wagner. This is not Mayor Wagner. This is the council. This is the city. These are the residents. These are the people. It's hurt, or no? It's not hurt. The council. We felt that even though the court ruled that we felt that it was an unlawful, act, and we stand by that, and that is why we are appealing the case.
With an application for appeal setting the backdrop for Citco's next move, has a preemptive strike by Miller to crowfoot its assets backed City Hall into a corner? Here's how the build-up that led to the drama at the Works Department on Monday afternoon all unfolded.
Yesterday we were a bit puzzled by the back and forth. The marshals came to the office, and we were in a discussion through their attorneys, not through me, but attorney to attorney. But we felt that the claimant was acting in a disingenuous manner, because at first instance she requested 50,000 during the course of the day, and back and forth with our attorneys, they said, all right, listen, they were willing to take a letter of undertaking from us saying, we'll pay you the 50,000 next week. So, because we understand that if a judgment come out, we as a responsible counsel has to make some sort of commitment to the person who won the case. And so we were taken aback when our attorneys was drafting that letter, that they came back and said they don't want the letter of undertaking, which would have made us pay 50,000 next week Tuesday. They want the 50,000 today. yesterday, which was yesterday. And the thing is that they kept moving the goalposts on us. Thereafter the 50,000, they took it up to 125,000 immediately for the day. Then 175 portion this week, portion next week. It was just a situation where there was no end in sight. We were acting in good faith. We knew that a ruling has been issued to us, and we as a responsible council, we wanted to act in good faith all the while.
Coming up, the historic swing bridge that connects the north and south sides of the city is going through major repairs.
Hello, friends. This is Dr. Bob Roberts.
The historic swing bridge in the heart of the city is undergoing repairs to ensure the safety of thousands of pedestrians who traverse the bridge every day. But the state of the bridge has deteriorated so much that the scope of work has also grown significantly. Belize City Mayor Bernard Wagner says that now more time is needed to complete the extensive repairs. Here's News 5's Isani Caetano with this report.
The historic Belize City Swing Bridge stands as the oldest structure of its kind in Central America. Constructed and installed near the mouth of the Halover Creek almost a century ago, this relic of Belize's colonial past is in a state of disrepair, and the municipal government has assumed the responsibility of putting it back together.
When we look at the safety of the people that traverse that bridge, we say, I need to get it fixed. I need to repair it immediately. And when we went in, the engineers went in, they started to dig here and dig there, and listen, when you look, beams erode, structures where pedestrians walk, people could fall in, or kids could fall in on the side, panels. So what we did, we get an initial assessment. We never feel that we may spend over 20,000. That was the first initial. Well, we say, but as we started then dig in, we couldn't open that bridge. It would have been irresponsible of us.
The extent of corrosion beneath the passageway is quite alarming. Indeed, this landmark that has for decades defined Belize City's downtown, bifurcating its north and south sides, is gradually giving way to destruction.
This is the main beam here, and this beam here attached to that big plate way up the top. But at the bottom here, see, yes, sir? All of them are rotten, so we put this plate over all of them. Every one of them are new plate there. Yep. Every one we had to change and strengthen some of the piece where they call the stiffeners at the top, and then the I-beam here we change there, and the whole decking and the flooring, everything changed.
The pedestrian crossing on the western end of the swing bridge is closed to foot traffic. However, remedial works to fix that portion of the structure have gone into overtime.
So what we are doing, we are trying to ensure that when we reopen that bridge, it is safe for our residents and it will last us a year and a half, 2 years roughly. We want to put some lights also on the bridge dark the night. So even that will be included on the bridge, and when that side is finished, we move on to the other side. But it's hard when you're the work for the people and just continue this back and forth, become burdensome and become tiring to you, you understand? And we know if we heart they're in the right place, and that's why we keep going at Isani.
Is there a process that was followed in terms of the contractor submitting a bid for works there? I asked
No. There was no. This was just a quick fix situation. We said we never planned that it would have lasted this long. We felt that it would have been a one-off type, small term, short term, small costs. But so it is when you repair your house and you tear down one wall and you see one beam deteriorate, would lice eat there, and then it just goes on and on. But we are confident that the money has been well spent. We engineers from the council is well on board with us with this. They have been supervising the works on that bridge, and we feel confident that the people of the city will see that our heart is in the right place. We don't care if the bridge takes 6 months to finish, we want to get it right.
I ask about a contract and a bid because the perception would be that perhaps the city administrator and her father, her father is the one who I'm assuming is the contract holder.
Yeah.
It seems as like a conflict of interest. How did that come about in terms of him?
I don't really think so. Job? I think that Bill Lindo, everybody know Bill Lindo. Bill Lindo, our engineer, he's a certified engineer, you know. Certified engineer, he knows how to get work done, and at the end of the day, Mayor Wagner just said, I wanted to get this bridge fixed. Who is the best person to get on this job immediately? and building to fulfill that. I don't care about people might say bias and the data the administrator. Listen, man, we feel that we get value for money.
A date for the completion of the repairs is yet to be established. Reporting for News 5, I am Isana Cayetano.
The National Awards ceremony takes place later this month in the South. The ceremony will recognize students that excelled in the CSEC regional exams and the Cape. Students from the Corzall Junior College and Edward P. York High School proved they are worth their salt. A release from the ministry recognizes the outstanding students. As it relates to the Cape examinations, Leanne David Morales from the Corzall Junior College is this year's most outstanding candidate and is the recipient of the Belize Scholarship, having obtained as many as 8 Grade 1 passes. Randall Page, also from Corzall Junior College, is the outstanding candidate, having attained 6 Grade 1 passes. Turning to the CSEC, a total of 402 students will be recognized. 2 will receive subject group awards, and 34 will receive individual subject awards for the regional exam. The results of the May-June exams also showed that the students of Edward P. York High School were top achievers. Alexis Jerry Guy is the most outstanding candidate, having passed 17 exams at Grade 1 proficiency level, as well as first place for English and business principles. Diana Marokin, also from Edward P. York, took second place with 14 Grade 1 passes at the proficiency level. Diana also receives the Subject Group Award in the Sciences. A third student from the same high school, Angie Matute, will receive the Subject Group Award for Technical Vocational. This year, the award ceremony takes place on November 29th in the Village of Independence. Almost 9 months after a lawsuit was filed by Corporal Eldon Arzu, the president of the Police Association, against the Commissioner of Police, Chester Williams, the case is still not proceeded to trial. This is because Arzu's first attorney did not comply with certain instructions given by the court. Today, the case came up again before Justice Shona Griffith. Arzu has, however, changed attorney and is now being represented by Nazira Miles. Miles made an application for relief from sanctions and an extension of time to file more evidence. Justice Griffith stated that while she's not blaming the present attorney for the actions of the former attorney, she is refusing the application for relief of sanctions to be allowed to file more affidavits. However, the trial will still be allowed to proceed. After court, Miles spoke to the media about what transpired.
The trial date had to be vacated from July. There were certain orders the court made that were not complied with. There was an application made for relief and to be able to file those or comply with those orders. Today the application was not granted, but the claim will still proceed because we do have the affidavit of the claimant before the court. So what will take place next is the trial.
Do you think the fact that you will no longer be able to file these 3 out of 4 affidavits, I think if not all 4 of them, that will materially affect your client's case?
I don't believe so to a large extent because we do have his affidavit in place, which presents to the court the base of our evidence. Additionally, there's always room for cross-examination of those witnesses, so I'll have the opportunity to clarify or put to them whatever evidence I wish.
The case was adjourned February 11, 2020. On January 16, 2019, Chester Williams became the Commissioner of Police. Williams took the helm of the police department amid alleged corrupt, and he was determined to get the department in order. As a result, Williams took steps to make several changes within the department. One such change was to put a 2-year limit on the term an officer can serve as the president of the Belize Police Association. A deadly explosion that claimed the lives of a pair of siblings and injured 14 others on board a vessel on May 5th has resulted in charges being filed against several parties, including the boat captain and 2 companies. The Belize Port Authority conducted an investigation into the blast on board the San Pedro Jet Express, which occurred at the Hollover Creek at the foot of the Belize Swing Bridge. The explosion killed sisters Yamira and Kimberly Guy. The outcome of the inquiry reveals that the explosion was the result of an accumulation of fumes from a fuel leakage inside an enclosed compartment. That was ignited by a spark created when a wire attached to the bilge pump. The Port Authority, in conclusion, has since brought charges against Ernesto Delgado, who was identified as the master of the vessel at the time of the incident, as well as San Pedro Water Jets International and Ocean Ferry Belize. Those charges include loss of life by negligence, causing a vessel that was unsafe to be sent on a voyage, and attempting to send a vessel that was unsafe on a voyage. There is no word whether legal action will be taken against the respective parties by the families of the victims. A fire quickly swept through a wooden house in the news site area of Benque Viejo del Carmen. A family of 3 lost all they owned in the blaze that erupted around 9 o'clock on Monday night. Fortunately, the family members were not inside the building. The house owner was alerted of the fire, but by the time she got to the house, the blaze was uncontrollable. News 5's Hipólito Novello reports.
Burnt rubbles belonging to a house once occupied by a family of 3 are what remain at the scene in Benque Viejo del Carmen town. It was about 9 o'clock on Monday night that the fire erupted from within the 20 by 15 feet wooden structure.
I was out yesterday when one of my neighbors called me and told me, early, your house is on fire, So I came from where I was to my house, and I saw a lot of people out here, and when I saw, it was the house at the backyard. When my little niece called her mom, and I told her, Mom, look. And then they saw the fire inside of the house, not outside. It was really huge. Because when I came, the fire was out of the house already. Even for people from the entrance of Benque Viejo town were up here. They brought buckets and everything to help.
No one was inside the building when the fire broke out. No one was injured, but the family lost everything, including
sofas, utility like the spoons, everything for the kitchen, stove, tank, refrigerator, 2 beds, all of that, the stands.
The family believes the cause was electrical.
I was looking for my grandma, and I asked her what happened. She said, I don't know. I just heard something explode. I guess it was like the refrigerator that exploded in there, and that's what happened. So it could get the circuit, you say, right? From the wires.
The house and its contents were not insured. Reporting for News 5, Hipólito Novello.
After the break, area rep for the Albert, Tracy Panton, is taking on Hugo Pat for first deputy leader of the UDP. But is she with Patrick Faber?
Land issues
The Leadership Convention for the United Democratic Party has been set for February 9, 2020, when, as you know, Patrick Faber and John Saldivar will go head-to-head in a race to replace outgoing leader Dean Barrow. Over the past 2 weeks, both Saldivar and Faber launched their leadership campaigns, each claiming to have mustered support from the 560 delegates who will determine the next leader of the party. Now, Team Saldivar is comprised of Hugo Pat and Beverly Williams, who are running for the first deputy leader and second deputy leader, respectively. Albert's area rep Tracy Panton will be going head-to-head with Pat at the convention for first deputy leader post. Panton attended both Saldivar and Faber's campaign launch at the Civic Center. So does this mean that the Albert rep is all about the base on Team Faber? And who will the Albert delegates support? Here's what she had to say.
I think there's time for that decision to be made, and that decision will not be made unilaterally by me. The delegates from the Albert constituency will have an opportunity to weigh in on that decision. They were selected as delegates because I trust their opinion, because they represent families that have always been very supportive of the United Democratic Party. And so I think that as their leader, as their representative, I have to respect their views and input on who they believe our new leader should be. So there will be a robust discussion, certainly before February 9th.
Panton was the first to have announced her bid for the first deputy leadership of the UDP. Manuel Heredia Jr. is also running for second deputy leader. Panton says she has national appeal as a woman on the ticket, but that all candidates are strong.
One of the reasons I decided to take the stand that I took is because I was approached by members of our party and supporters of our party asking for me to give it consideration. So I believe that, let me say this, I think it's very important. All the candidates that are running for the positions within the central executive are strong candidates, candidates that offer something to the table and bring something to the party. But we have a convention, and then we also have a general election. And I think that we need to put our strongest soldiers or generals in place to win a fourth consecutive term. It's not an easy undertaking. And I think our delegates and our party faithful and our party supporters see that and recognize that. And so I believe that I am very much in the running for first deputy leader of the United Democratic Party.
Both Faber and Saldivar have taken to social media to bolster their candidacy. Faber for some time was seen as the person being groomed to be the next leader of the UDP. But now Saldivar is claimed to have the support of 23 standard bearers, including the son and sister of party leader Dean Barrow. Political pundits say that the united front that the UDP has boasted has been shattered, and the contenders are showing their colors going into the convention. While she did not concede to infighting, Minister Tracy Panton says that following the convention in February, the bad blood must be set aside in order to win the general elections whenever it is called in 2020.
I think we've always anticipated that there would be a contest for the next leader of the United Democratic Party. There was no anticipation that there wouldn't be. And so that's part of our democracy. I think that the fact that in every position on the central executive, you have more than one candidate offering themselves to be considered speaks of the robust democracy of the United Democratic Party. And we understand fully well that some of us will win, and there are some of us who won't make the central executive team, but they will have an important role in the winning of the next election. And I think that the healing, if you will be a very short term because we're very focused on the work that we want to continue doing for the people of Belize.
Minister Panton also responded to a question about former cabinet minister Gaspar Vega. As we've reported, while Vega resigned as a member of cabinet in 2017 due to a land scandal that involved his son, Andre Vega, the former deputy prime minister still enjoys significant ministerial perks. He is receiving roughly $50,000 annually in take-home pay as well as allowances for expenses, transportation and telephone. Vega is still being afforded round-the-clock personal police security, even though he's been inactive in government and has not been to House meetings for some time. Pantan says that Vega is entitled to all the perks.
Minister Vega is an elected era representative of the United Democratic Party, and as such he is entitled to all privileges that any elected era rep is entitled to. He has not been in cabinet. That a decision was taken some time ago, but he is still making his contribution to the party. I don't know that he has declared his formal interest to run for the next election, but I'm sure that he will do all he can in his capacity to ensure that the party is battle ready come November 2020.
When we come back, we go inside a bird sanctuary and show the amazing work they're doing to protect the yellow-headed parrot. Belize's yellow-headed parrot population is disappearing from our forests. It's a bird that is endangered worldwide. Illegal poaching, deforestation, and other pressures have reduced this colorful bird to a little over 1,000. In some parts, the bird can no longer be found. Here in Belize, the Forest Department and its local conservation partners have gotten serious about this issue for a few years now. It is illegal to buy the chicks or to have these parrots without a license, and so the Forest Department has cracked down on persons who are keeping the birds in their homes. To get these birds ready for life outside of the cages and back into the wild, they work with the Belize Bird Rescue. It is a non-profit bird sanctuary that sits on a 50-acre property called Rock Farm. The farm houses a guest house and helps to support the organization. But almost 15 years later, the BBR has grown to a full facility, fitted with a clinic to accommodate all kinds of birds. Reporter Andrea Polanco tells us more about the important work that the Rehab and Rescue Center is doing for birds in Belize.
These noisy yellow-headed parrots are in decline. Their colorful feathers.
We love donations of food supplies. We use 2 sacks of corn a week, 2 sacks of sunflower seeds a week. We make cake for them, we bake eggs for them, carrots, pumpkin, any kind of vegetables, any kind of fruits. If you have a farm or a market stall and you have stuff left over, give us a call, we can come get it, within reason if it's involved. Illegal poaching, predation, natural predation, they're the main threats that
I'm Andrea Polanco. The illegal pet trade. Add to that the threat of the loss of their habitats and nests. These birds are now endangered, with over 90% of the species numbers having disappeared from its home range in the last 2 decades. But in Belize, this bird, while isolated and threatened, can still be found.
Deforestation and habitat loss, illegal logging, illegal poaching, and predation, natural predation. They're the main threats that the parrots face. The things we're doing to redress that, we're working with other organizations in conservation projects, nest monitoring, and we hand-raise baby birds and then put them back when they may not otherwise have survived. The only bird that we really know for sure what's going on with is the yellowhead parrot. It's the one that everybody wants as a pet. It's the one that talks really well. It's only found in Belize. It's a unique subspecies here in Belize. And in the 1990s, there were 70,000 of them. Now there's 1,200, 1,200. That's it.
Back in 2004, Nikki Buxton opened this bird sanctuary called Belize Bird Rescue. She started the BBR to help the yellow-headed parrot transition from captivity to the wild. It is a program that is supported by the Forestry Department.
We discovered that there was an issue with parrots being in captivity, and it's actually against the law to have them in captivity, and yet there was nothing in place for the government to be able to use to put those parrots back into the wild, which would have been the perfect situation for any captive parrot. The majority of the birds that we have here are the long-term parrot rehab. The challenge with the parrots is when they come in, they are usually clipped. People get the scissors and cut the wings so they can't fly away. And that takes about 18 months to 2 years to regenerate. And so we have to keep them safe during that period. If they got out, they wouldn't survive the predators. So we work very hard to keep the yellowhead habitat safe and to put back as many yellowheads as we can. So far we've released 102 back into the population, which is a pretty good chunk of 1,200.
But the Belize Bird Rescue would soon find out that there were many birds in Belize that needed urgent help. So they now work with just about every species of birds. The BBR takes in birds that have been confiscated, surrendered, or injured, or sick.
Forest Department will either bring confiscated or surrendered ex-pets or birds that they've removed from poachers. We have people who have pets in captivity that realize that it's actually a problem to have them and they really don't know what to do with them anymore, so they bring them to us. So surrenders, confiscations, injuries, orphan birds, birds that have fallen from nests. And also we hand raise birds that have been brought out of the nesting sites by the rangers when they are in trouble in the nest.
When an injured bird is taken in at the Belize Bird Rescue, it is assessed and housed accordingly. The vet would work with the bird to provide medication, and in some cases, surgeries and other medical procedures would need to be done. The bird remains with the BBR where it receives food and care and eventually is prepared to be released back into the wild. Sometimes some birds are in really bad shape and they need to be rehabilitated for years before they can go back to the forest. In some extreme cases, some birds can't go back to their home, and so they must stay and live at the BBR where they are cared for.
Amongst the parrots, it's the issue with people removing them from the nests and having them in captivity in bad conditions. With the other species, I would say primarily it's probably half being injured by humans either on purpose with slingshots or with a vehicle or something by accident. Or if they've come in from a migration, they get sick, they get parasites, injuries, things like that.
While Nikki considers Belize as a haven for birds, she also sees the threats to these animals.
We're seeing an increase in the number of corn crops and cane crops, and the problem with those is that they're using big machinery now, which means they have to clear massive areas. There's no buffers being left between fields anymore. The fields are becoming hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of acres, and it's way too much. The birds won't cross them, the animals won't cross them, so they're not just losing habitat, they're losing a food source. We're imbalancing the whole ecosystem, and also creating monocultures is causing disease. It's not a healthy environment for humans or for animals, to be quite honest.
Caring for these birds come naturally to Nikki and the team at BBR. They also know that there is a bigger impact. In recent years, Belize has been growing as a birding destination. Just last year alone, 30,000 tourists came to Belize to do birding. So to have healthy birds and a variety of species in Belize adds to the birding experience.
We're getting a huge community of birders in this country, and some of them are absolutely world class. They're bringing a lot of tourists here. The tourists are coming to see the birds. They want to see the iconic ones, the toucan, the national bird, the parrots, the big eagles and things like that. But also our habitat here for migrants is crucial to keep that connectivity going between, I mean, these birds fly thousands of miles every single year. They'll go off to breed in the north and then they'll come back to winter down south. And if we don't maintain this habitat for them, it messes up everything.
Today, the BBR has more than 150 birds. Every morning, the team prepares breakfast for these birds by cutting fruits and vegetables served with seeds in about 60 containers. They are fed and the sick birds get their daily meds. But to run this nonprofit organization also takes $170,000 a year, so the BBR depends on donations and other forms of funding to support the medical, food, transport, wages, and other needs. So you can help to take care of these birds by donating money, your time, or even food.
We love donations of food supplies. We use 8 coconuts a day. That's a lot when it adds up over the year. We 2 sacks of corn a week, 2 sacks of sunflower seeds a week. We make cake for them, we bake eggs for them, carrots, pumpkin, any kind of vegetables, any kind of fruits. If you have a farm or a market stall and you have stuff left over, give us a call, we can come get it, within reason if it's in Belmopan.
Reporting for News 5, I'm Andrea Polanco.
If you come across a sick or injured bird, you are asked to get in contact with the Belize Bird Rescue immediately. You're also advised not to remove young chicks and birds from their nests for domestic purposes or for illegal pet trade. If you'd like more information on how you can help the BBR, you can call Director Nikki Buxton at 610-0400, or you can get more information at belizebirdrescue.com. As you heard in that story, Belize's parrots are under threat. The illegal trafficking of native parrots for house pets has been a growing problem. The yellow-headed parrots are captured at a very young age and sold as pets in the illegal pet trade. The birds also face a number of other threats that have caused them to be listed as an endangered species. So to help protect the yellow-headed parrots, it is illegal to own one in Belize without a license. Today when we spoke with Nikki Buxton of the Belize Bird Rescue, she gave us an update on the licensing process.
This was a few years ago that the Forest Department and us, between us, brought in a license program where we would grandfather in the legalities of having a parrot in a cage, provided they maintained the standards and the bird was in good condition and everything. A lot of people put in their application and then they didn't hear very much. The reason for that is that the Forest Department is, like everybody else, is struggling for resources and funding. But they're getting there, they're getting to people with these birds, and so anybody that's put in an application, they will eventually be coming around to register and license the birds and make it legal for them. But we do urge members of the public not to go out and get a bird from the wild under any circumstances, because it is illegal, it's demolishing the populations. The populations are definitely coming down, and eventually, if Forest Department finds out about it, they probably will take it away.
Coming up after the break, a commercial mission from Barbados looks for new markets in Belize.
As we continue to enhance customer experience, the Social Security
The economies of Belize and Barbados are dependent on tourism, but there are other opportunities that can open up for further trade between both countries. This is why a mission from Barbados is in the country. Representatives from 10 companies are looking at new markets, and similarly, Belizean counterparts, particularly in the agricultural sector, want to expand its access into the regional market. Here's News 5's Dwayne Moody.
A Barbados commercial trade mission is in Belize to increase trade between both countries. As it currently stands, $1.4 million in goods are traded annually from Barbados to Belize. $1.9 million in agricultural products are exported from Belize to Barbados. Minister of Investment, Trade and Commerce Tracy Panton says it is a step in the right direction as it relates to improving trade within the CARICOM region.
We keep talking about the CARICOM single market and economy, and we keep talking about regionalization and how important it is for our very survival. Regionalization or economic ties don't happen if business-to-business contacts don't happen. And so this mission is important. We buy a lot, as you know, of our products outside of CARICOM, and so they're here to offer what they can offer us in terms of commodities, and certainly there will be opportunities for exchanges with their Belizean counterparts as well.
Barbados is 166 square miles with a population of about 280,000 persons. The tourism industry is its driving revenue generator, but Business Development Officer Sharon Walton says that they're trying to give a boost to the many other industries on the island.
The BIDC is an arm of government which has been charged with increasing exports. In addition, we work with manufacturers, small businesses. Our main revenue, though, is tourism. Used to be manufacturing, but it is tourism. And in terms of the manufacturing sector, we have been rolling out a number of programs to help to improve the sector, with export being the main thrust.
In a first instance, the Barbados Investment Development Corporation is in Belize this week to network with private sector stakeholders on establishing relationships to boost trading between both countries. The counterpart of the Belize Trade and Investment Development Service, Beltrade, a two-day expo began today, and it's featuring some 10 businesses representing a cross-section of industries.
What we're doing here in Belize is just one of the initiatives that we have in order to raise exports within CARICOM. We have brought 10 businesses, and there are 14 participants representing at this trade mission. There's a range of businesses. We have food, which is our largest sector. We have ICT, and then we also have printing and publishing. Our mandate is to increase exports and bringing the companies here. Hopefully, we are looking to get some business, and that will eventually increase the exports from Barbados. But in addition to increasing exports, we are also looking for that collaboration with Belizean companies, because we don't want to have a one-way stream. We want to cooperate and have some joint ventures and that kind of thing.
The ministry has three main objectives: facilitating trade, promoting investment, and also ensuring that commerce can happen. And commerce can only happen, as said before, if we can bring the private sector partners together to have those discussions so that we can support not only our local economy, but also the regional economy.
The expo precedes an outreach to the Spanish lookout community on Thursday. Dwayne Moody for News 5.
As it relates to CARICOM, some of Belize's agricultural products have made their way into the regional market. But even as discussions are ongoing to introduce Belize sugar industry's plantation white sugar into the Caribbean, it is not yet a done deal, posing tremendous challenges to ASR-BSI. Minister of State for Investment, Trade and Commerce Tracy Panton says that the matter will be further ventilated at an upcoming meeting of COTED, the Council for Trade and Economic Development, which promotes trade and economic development of the Caribbean community. Panton says that Belize plans to present a finding that supports the substitution of refined white sugar with the Belizean-produced plantation white sugar.
We've had some challenges in terms of having our plantation white sugar be classified and can be a substitute really for refined white sugars which are not produced in the region. So the meeting that is coming up is going to be critical as we look at the substitutionality of plantation white for refined white sugar. There was an independent report commissioned by the Caribbean Development Bank which suggests that the plantation white sugars can be substituted for some, not all products, but for most of what is produced in the Caribbean. And so we hope to make that case at COTED so that we can start having greater market access for Belizean-produced sugar in CARICOM.
While CARICOM is a natural trading partner, Minister Pantan says that Belize is looking at other opportunities outside of the CARICOM region to export the Belizean-produced sugar. A delegation is on the return from Taiwan, where a series of meetings took place with Belize's trade negotiating team, and initial reports are that an economic cooperation agreement will soon be established between both countries.
We are in the process of negotiating an economic cooperation agreement with Taiwan, and a big part of the ask from Belize is market access for our sugar. My reports are that negotiations went extremely well. I will be brief, obviously, as soon as the team arrives, but I feel that we will have, after these negotiations are over, we will have a new market access for sugar. So we're very pleased about that.
And that's the news. Don't forget that tonight's broadcast is available in both text and streaming video at channel5belize.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/News5Live. I'm Marlene Cuellar. Thanks for joining us, and from all of us here at News 5, good night.